of MotherG. I'm sure many of you recognize. Certainly one
Got
of
the COVID facial hair going on.
And certainly having worked with MSP myself, Dave, it's a great opportunity. I know within the industry, you're certainly MotherG and yourself are recognized as leaders and innovators, and so it's a real pleasure to be with you again this morning.
Yep. Paul is with a peer company. Maybe you can advance the slide,
Sure.
Paul.
Yeah.
Paul is with a peer company that I know quite well. I've known Smart Dolphins and their owner, Dave Monahan, for a number of years. And in collaboration with Dave recently, we were talking about their education programs through Teams. And it's not something that MotherG currently offers formally. And we found an opportunity to bring some Teams training to the market. Certainly the COVID shelter in place command that much of the world has undergone has created an opportunity for us to become a little more reliant on these platforms. Zoom, for example, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, is a great tool for video conference because it's super simple to invite people and get them in, as we just experienced, where Teams is much more locked down platform. And if we're going to be sharing very private, sensitive information within our organization, we do want those controls in place. And that's actually where we hit the roadblock with Teams in this case. We have a fairly locked down environment within Teams. So it's a highly secure platform for us to collaborate. When we put every bit of our private information out on a network, we want to make sure that it's very carefully conscripted and only the people that should can see it. So that's the world we're living in. Paul is going to lead our discussion. I would encourage you to use the chat function if you're not sure where it is. It's on the bottom of your screen. If you move your mouse, you'll see the word chat, and click on that and a little screen will pop up on that side of your screen, and you can then enter any questions that you have for Paul or myself to answer at the end of the presentation. So we're going to, maybe, Paul, you can click to the next slide. I think you stopped sharing.
I did. I was just changing the way I was sharing, yeah.
Okay. Click to the agenda, and Paul's going to talk through Teams. He's going to talk about some of the security, and then we're going to have a demo. And at the end of that, which should be about 30 minutes from now, we'll have a Q&A session. So we are a little bit behind. Again, apologize for the technical difficulties, but without any further ado, Paul, take it away.
Awesome. Thanks, Dave. And welcome, everybody, this morning. So, yeah, just jumping right into it. Teams, when we think about it in the world of Office 365 and Microsoft Office within the historic context, is we've been using Microsoft Word and Excel and PowerPoint, all of these tools for many years. We're quite used to them. And what Teams is really nothing short of a revolution in terms of Office 365, because it's created a collaborative environment for you to work in and for you to work on files. And there's some really stunning examples about how that's going to improve your productivity as we move towards this world. But in short, Microsoft Teams, it's chat-centered, it's integrated, and it also allows you to logically store your files as well. And you can see here the number of daily users is just growing exponentially. This number tripled in March from what it was in December, if I recall correctly. And
yes,
no surprise.
Right.
So just 5 reasons why people might want to use Microsoft Teams. And really, the key thing here is you can have all your conversations online and refer back to them. And on that note, we know within our companies that we can have some really excellent conversations in hallways and at water coolers and in doorways during normal times. and that discussion can be really great, and then it can completely slip away because people forgot there was no next action declared. Whereas if you can move those really valuable conversations into a platform where you can reference back to them later, they can actually become really valuable for growing your company and moving it forward as well. And really, the key here is having all of those conversations that used to all just land in your inbox internally, having those be organized in a very focused and efficient way, and then also having the files that are associated with those teams and those various projects and that sort of thing that you might be operating in your company, having those being organized in a logical way as well. So Teams really does that. And then of course, just keeping up to date, staying in the loop. And that sounds pretty generic, but really the fundamental thing here is the inbox is not a great way to organize information. We really know that because when we come back from holidays and we've been hit with 2-3 weeks worth of emails in no particular order, we know we can spend a day or two sorting that out. And so by moving all of your email from internal communications over into Teams in an organized way, really stops that spiral of email. So you're having everything in one place. You're really improving the efficiency of meetings as well, because you can save those meetings, you can have chat around those meetings, all of it again being stored in that single hub, which is Teams. And then you can keep those conversations open as well, just by having the ability to jump into conversations and get answers pretty quickly. Most of us, I don't know about you guys, but I know most of our company, we're working from home, we're sitting in front of our computers, and we can just dial each other up over Teams or just send each other a message. And most importantly is that email silos and that I got it email. And really the example, I call it the email spiral. We've all been part of one where somebody sends an email to 12 people and they CC 16 more, and you never cared about the first one, but 3 days later you're still getting reply to alls and files as well. When you think about it, the way we collaborate on files, I email you a file, you edit the file, you email it back to me. Maybe we're emailing it to 3 or 4 people, and you end up in situations where like 3 people are working on this various different versions of the file. All of that goes away when you collaborate within the Teams environment. So very exciting, really a revolution in Office 365. And of course,
Paul, if I could interject, one of the things that Teams did, for people that are familiar with SharePoint and some of the options that you have in SharePoint, is Team has enveloped SharePoint within the product. So you get all of the capabilities in SharePoint integrated right within one platform.
That's right.
So I think that's really key.
Yeah. And then again, my final bullet here, just getting people up to speed when they join a project. They can go back and just read everything that was in that channel. So, and as mentioned with the features, it does rest over top of SharePoint. So you think of SharePoint as this amazing tool, which I'm sure many of you have had exposure to, but it's fairly complicated. And there's SharePoint experts that have developed various solutions that rest on top of SharePoint, because although at the core of it, it's fairly simple, it's a very complex tool that you can add so much to. And I think what Teams has done is it's created a simple interface for SharePoint, which is fantastic for those of you who don't maybe need something more advanced than that. And again, it sits on top of SharePoint, but also OneDrive shouldn't be overlooked as well. And when you send a file in a chat to another user on Teams, it'll actually save that file to your OneDrive. And so it'll be there until you basically need to go in and delete it. And you have a terabyte of storage on your user OneDrive. So it's really really hard to fill that up with chats. And so lots of people use OneDrive as well. And the opportunities there, if you haven't implemented OneDrive, are also huge. So talk to these guys about those opportunities. It is an enterprise program, and so it's obviously very robust, very secure, as we experienced this morning. But it also allows for very large numbers. So 5,000 people can be in a team, and 100 people can be in a private chat. It does do all your calling and conferencing. Where Teams has a bit of, or where Zoom has a bit of an advantage, is you can see up to, I believe it's 49 people on the screen at once, whereas with Teams, at the moment, you're limited to 9 people on the screen. You can still have more people in the meetings, you just can't run those simultaneous videos. But for most organizations and most teams, it's not, 9 is fine. And of course, you see the last 9 that spoke is how it works. You can schedule all your conferences, you can call instantly, and I'll demonstrate that when I go into the demo. And of course, all of your meetings that are scheduled in Teams are synchronized automatically to Outlook. And you can record them as well. And this is what's great about this, is if you're having online learning internally, you can save those. You can build libraries. So you could have an orientation session with a new employee. You can save that, and that could be part of a learning library for online orientation when you onboard new employees. So really, and of course, organized by the team. It's in the right place, just by virtue of how Microsoft Teams is organized. And lots and lots of third-party integrations, Twitter, et cetera. I'm going to demonstrate today the PDF integration, but we use the Twitter one. So when we tweet something out, it'll share it automatically in a channel. And if there's other people in the organization that want to retweet or like or whatever, it's just a simple tool, but it really an ecosystem that's growing up around Teams of all these vendors that really obviously want to get on the Microsoft bandwagon. Why wouldn't they? So just quick notes on security. As mentioned, we're enterprise grade. The key here is how you want to get set up. So if you're going to put a whole lot of your business online within Teams, and really you should be doing this already with Microsoft 365 and Office 365, is get multi-factor authentication set up. So for those of you who maybe this is a new term for you, it's when you think of what authentication is, we use our username, which is usually our email address, and we have a password, and that's how we authenticate ourselves. But that's just a single factor. It's the password. And of course, we all know passwords can get hacked and do get hacked routinely. So what multi-factor authentication does is it adds an additional layer of authentication. And most of the time, how you see that materialize is a 6-digit number texted to your phone. There's also applications you can get. There's probably a dozen other ways you can authenticate yourself, but you should be looking at one that makes sense for your organization if you don't already have that. And obviously talk to your IT provider about that. And conditional access and single sign-on. So once you have integrated Office 365, you can restrict where people log in from around the world. And so obviously if there's countries and that you have no staff in, you can lock those countries out, because why would you want to leave that door open for potential hacker? And similarly with single sign-on, we do encourage people, if you're using third-party applications, see if they have an integration for Microsoft Office. What it means for users is they don't have to remember more passwords, and what it means for security is you're getting Microsoft-grade security on those vendors' applications. So it's really a win-win for everybody when you can do it. And finally, think about a usage policy for your organization. If there's one tip you take away, you're jumping into Teams maybe, I would say think about how you're going to use it. Maybe look at your email policy for your organization and see what's relevant for that. In particular, when it comes to financial data, HR, if you're dealing with health information or any other sensitive data like that, you should have a policy around how that's being used, and that should be clearly illustrated to all of your staff. So that's it for kind of my notes. Any quick questions before I jump into the demo? How are we doing, Dave?
I think we're good. Keep going.
All right, sounds good. So I'm just going to close that up and put my Teams up here. So when I first, everybody you see Teams up on my screen here, Dave?
Yes.
Awesome. So for the purpose of the demo, what we've done here is we've created a company called Smart Orcas Corporation. And Smart Orcas Corporation in this demo is North America's leading manufacturer of oceanography equipment. And I'm Paul Holmes, the Research and Development Manager, and I've created this demo to illustrate a day in my life as it might kind of happen over Teams. So this morning I got an email from the COO of the company indicating that I was being appointed to the Health and Safety Committee on behalf of the executive team. And with that, I've got new COVID-19 related health and safety guidelines that were sent to me in a PDF. And so not really my normal role, but I obviously need to get busy and get set up to do this. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add myself to the team. And you might see I'm in some teams already. I'm in one called Smart Orcas, which typically most companies will have a team that's named after their company organization. I'm also in the operations team, the research and development team, and of course, being a social animal, I joined the social department as well. But in order to add an additional team, I'm just click down here on join or create a team. And here's the health and safety team. It's a public team. Sometimes there's private teams as well. You can set them up either way. And it's fairly obvious why you might want to do that. A management team, for example, you wouldn't want anybody
HR.
to be able to join. HR, finance, things like that, where maybe not everybody needs to be able to just join and view everything. I should note as well that within public teams, you can have channels that are restricted. So I could have a public finance team, but I could have, say, a payroll channel within that finance team that's restricted only to people that are payroll people. So there's some flexibility in how you set it up. But you can see right off the bat here, I have added the health and safety team, and within that team, I'm just going to show you all the channels here. There are 4 channels, and what I've done with this email, I've actually been told by my COO that really my focus area is going to be on COVID-19. So don't get too involved in the regular daily stuff. So I've decided I'm not going to worry too much about the health and safety incident report. So I'm just going to hide that team. Doesn't mean I can't go in there. I can still navigate in there. But I just don't need it to show up in the limited real estate on my screen every day. And similarly, I'm going to hide the meeting minutes. And really, the focus for me is going to be the open discussion channel. So, and that's where obviously the various things that the open discussion around return to work in this example is going to be happening. Now I'm going to pin a channel as well because this is important, and I want to be able to see it. I've been given this important role, so I click on the 3 dots there, and I click on pin, and that's actually going to put the channel up along the top. So when I first load Teams, as soon as it pops up there, then it's going to show me the discussion as one of the sort of the top channels. And you can do this with any channels that make sense. What are the most important things in your day that you need to focus on quickly? And that's what we use that for. So I got an email from the COO, and of course we talked about getting out of the email spiral. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to forward that email into Teams. And the way that you do that is you go into the team where you want the email to show up, and I'm going to just pick open discussion here. And then you go up to the 3 dots here, and you can select get email address. And what that does, it takes a second if it hasn't been emailed before to generate a unique email address for Microsoft Teams for that channel. And so with that email address, in theory, anybody that has this email address can send it to you. Obviously, there are ways you can lock things down a little bit more if that's needed, but that's by default, that's how Microsoft does it. And I'm just going to forward this email. Just 1 second here. So I'm just taking that email address and I'm literally pasting it into the message that I got from my COO this morning. and then I'm clicking on send. I just clicked send, and you should see the email pop up in a few seconds. It's literally that quick. So you can see here, there's my email on behalf of the executive team. You've been appointed. So now everybody in that team could see the email where I was assigned that. And they can have discussion. They could click reply, and they can begin to have discussion regarding this. Now I'm going to cross-post this email over to the R&D channel, because I want the people in my team to know that I've got this extra responsibility. Now, rather than emailing it a second time or whatever, a very quick and dirty thing that I can do here is just click on the 3 dots and take copy link. And that literally gives you a website address to this thing, obviously with the security restrictions in place. But when I go over to the discussion on research and development, and I can start a new conversation over here. If you click on the format, you can actually get a larger view where you can add more information. So I'm just going to put a subject and say new additional rule on committee. And just a quick note, hey everybody, I'm going to be a bit busy, and paste. And that paste there, or you might use right click and control V for paste. You just use control V by by habit. You can mark this as important as well. So I think this is important enough. People need to know I'm going to be a busy guy for a while. So I'm just going to click on important. And I'm going to click send. And that's going to send this message over here. And if somebody wants to read the original message in the Health and Safety Committee, they can actually click over here and see the original message and what happened. So so it's a way you can navigate, essentially using hyperlinks the same way you do on a website. So that's the first thing that I'm going to do. Then I'm going to send a quick message into the channel, the open discussion channel here, just letting people know who I am. So hi everyone, I'm Paul from R&D. Happy to join the team. And it's that easy. And then anybody can come along and hit reply that might be in that team. So you can start a conversation very quickly. You don't have to have a title. You don't have to put formatting. You could just be very quick like that. And then I'm going to go and actually, I'm going to reply. Oh, look at that. I already got a welcome to the team. So I'm going to hit reply and say to Megan here, I'm going to say, thanks, and I'm going to tag her so that she gets the notification. So you do that by doing @ and then beginning to type in the person's name, just like you would in Facebook, for example. So hi, thanks, Megan. Happy to be a part. And that quickly, we can carry on that conversation. Now, I'm also going to go back to the channel, my R&D channel over here, and I'm going to actually alert everybody about this, because I realized, you know what, I put this important in here. I want to make sure people actually see it. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to hit a reply. You can edit it as well, but I'm just going to hit a reply, and I'm going to use that @ again. But instead of typing somebody's name now, I'm actually going to type in the word channel. And when you start typing in the word channel, it'll show you what the name of the channel is. You just click on it, and just wanted everyone to see this. So that's the first thing. And then as I'm typing that, I realize, oh my goodness, the R&D team meeting conflicts with the health and safety team meeting. So I need to let them know that I'm going to have to rebook that. So just wanted everyone to see this. I need to rebook the R&D meeting because of the conflict. Stay tuned. So again, everybody's going to see this. Everybody who's on the R&D discussion channel. Now, if somebody's in the R&D team, but maybe for some reason hid this channel, they're not going to get this notification that's being sent to everybody. If they have hid the channel and they're in the team and you mention them by name, then they will get that. So it's just a couple of things to remember. Just because somebody's in a channel doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to get every notification to the channel, because they might just sort of want to wander in from time to time. Example that I'm sure Dave and I use is I'm not a member of the support team where I work here, but I'll wander into their channels from time to time and send them messages and ask some questions. And if I start the discussion there, then I will get notifications on that discussion, even if the channel's hidden, because it's my discussion. So there's some ways around that in the real world as well. So the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a quick chat. So we saw from the discussion here that Megan is the chair of our health and safety committee. So I'm just going to go over here, and I'm going to start a new chat. It asks you what name you want to begin sending the chat to. By the way, anywhere in Teams, you can always click on this little pencil icon up here as well. Doesn't matter where you are, it'll begin a new chat. So again, you don't have to use @ here. You just begin typing the person's name. And if you want to send a chat to multiple people, you can type additional names as well. And you can even name those groups of people. But for this case, I'm going to not include Haley. I'm just going to include Megan. And I'm going to say, thanks for your note. Excited about getting back to work. All right, so that is chat. So it's fairly simple, similar concept. Now, there's a couple other things that I want to do here, because I had the announcement, and but I was also given those instructions, and I want to make sure that I do that as well. Oh, by the way, I should note this, sorry, before we jump ahead. If I wanted to just jump on a quick call with Megan, all I need to do here is click on the video call button or the audio call, and that will instantly begin a call with that person. They can decline it, obviously, or if they're away from their computer, then it's obviously not gonna pick up. But anytime, anywhere, you can start a meeting with people. And so we kind of left that window open with everybody working from home right now, because it's a great way to keep the communication flowing. So that's something you should all be aware of. Similarly with groups. So if you're in a group chat, you can do that as well. And you can even start within your teams, you can even start an off-the-cuff chat. So you do that with this icon down here called Meet Now. And when you click on that, that will invite everybody in this particular channel to that conversation. And you should usually give it a subject as well. And you can even turn it on recording if you want. So if you want to have a quick meeting, you can just do that and click Meet Now.
The other aspect there, Paul, is you can also schedule meetings very simply that way. If you click that button, you can also schedule a meeting right there. That way you don't have to try and remember, if you're in Outlook trying to figure out who or how do I invite the people from that channel or that team.
That's right.
You can just schedule that meeting right there, and it will publish an Outlook invite and will be a Teams meeting. So when you open that invite, it'll say join rather than giving you a dial-in. Also a link.
Yeah, you can do that with the schedule a meeting here. You can also you can navigate over to the calendar directly and book meetings in Teams here. What the advantage is here of scheduling versus Outlook is every meeting is a Teams meeting when you schedule it here. Whereas in Outlook, you have to actually click a toggle to turn it on and make it a Teams meeting. And I'll demonstrate that now since we're there. So I just clicked on new meeting. This should look very familiar to people. You give it a title. Really the differences between this and Outlook is you can add Teams people to this. So you just type add and begin adding people to the meeting that you want. And similarly, you can add a channel, and that channel, if you hit record, that's where it's going to actually save the recording to. It's going to also give a notification in that channel when the meeting starts as well. So anybody who's in that channel that has notifications on. So if I set that to R&D discussion and I begin that meeting at that time, if people have notifications on their phone and that sort of thing, it'll give them that notification as well. Even if they're not specifically invited, they'll still see it in their team. So So that's really the big difference. Other than that, you're looking at what's essentially an Outlook invitation. You can do recurring meetings, and you can do all-day meetings, everything else that you can do in Outlook here with scheduling your meetings. Now, I want to show you files. This is really important. So a couple of quick things that I did. I'm just going to discard this meeting because we don't need to book that today. Just want to jump over to back to the Health and Safety Committee. And within here, there is a file with all the members of the committee. And this is where hopefully you guys will get really excited about the collaboration option. So this file lives in SharePoint. It's part of the general channel for the health and safety team. I can just click on it and begin editing it. And so can several people at the same time. And that will begin editing it within Teams. But if you're one of those people and you love your online, or you love your desktop application, you can do that as well. And you do that through Open, and you could do in Excel online, or open it in the Excel, the actual native application as well. But for our purposes, I'm just going to click on it, and that's going to open it up in Teams. And I can begin editing it just directly from here. And so I would add myself as a member of the team. Oops. If I could find my keys on my keyboard. Oh, this ball. And obviously not going to put a lot more information in there. What's really neat though, that you probably haven't seen before, is there's a conversation button up in the corner here. And so you can actually go in and say, I've added myself to the spreadsheet. And you click send, and you might think, okay, that's great. What does that do? Well, this conversation will live forever with this file. So you could come back to this file 5 years later and still see what conversation happened. And you can imagine for collaboration how valuable that can be. That's the first thing it does. The second thing it does is it actually will create a post for that change. So this, I've added myself to the spreadsheet, now becomes a conversation. People can hit reply. They can do one click to edit it themselves if that's what they want to do. So there's a lot of flexibility there. So while I was here, I was like, you know what? At a glance, I don't know who's in this committee. So I'm going to actually make that a tab along the top here. And I do that with the 3 dots. And there's an option to make this a tab. And now when people come into the general channel for the Health and Safety Committee, they can just click along the top here and they can see who the members are. And so it's a way you can really quickly bookmark. We use this a fair bit for recording our KPIs, for example. You know, just a quick and dirty way of clicking a button and seeing what's happening. The other thing that happened, of course, was I got that PDF that was part of that email that was over in discussion that my COO sent to me this morning. And you can see the attachments there. I can click to open it, but probably what I really want to do with this, because it's a very important thing, is I want to actually make that a tab as well. And so I can go into files, and you can see that file isn't there, but the email messages is. And what that has is it has the actual message, so I can open the original message if I want to, and then it has the file that was attached to it. So every email that gets sent to here gets put automatically into here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to actually move this file. So I'm going to click on the 3 dots, and I'm going to click on move, because I've decided I want this over in the general channel. Just in case people aren't hanging out in this channel, this seems like a more sensible place for that to be. So I'm going to go to Microsoft Teams, and it's starting to spin. You know what? We're going to leave it there because I don't know. Went a little slow. Anyway, don't want to waste anybody's time, so I won't demonstrate the move, but that's how you do it. And then to make it a tab, in this case, there is no make a tab because it's a PDF. And this is where your third-party applications can come in really handy. So what I can do here is I can click on plus up here, and there is a PDF plugin. So I'm just going to type PDF, and there is, oops. Sorry, click too quick there. PDF. I'm just gonna click on that, and it's gonna ask me which file I want to include, and I'm gonna pick that one. And you can even give it a name, and you could say COVID-19 guidelines, because you want it to be something a little smaller than what the title of it is. And that will create a tab that will display that PDF. So that's it, folks. Lots and lots more that we could cover if we had. I actually do an 1.5-hour presentation of this, but we wanted to keep it short and sweet and show you some of the neat stuff. So that's
Yeah,
it.
I think if I could just maybe provide a little insight, we began using Teams about a year ago as an organization to consolidate our collaboration across teams. And it has brought together the idea of chat, video conferencing, collaboration on files. The one thing that I think is really key to note, that when you open that Excel sheet, Megan could have opened that same Excel sheet at the same time, and you both could be editing the same sheet at the same time and observing each other's changes. And this is really powerful when you're working notably remote like we are now, being able to collaborate on documents real time, share information, talk things through, as well as document those comments when you're offline with somebody by making those comments on the spreadsheet or whatever the file is, and then sharing that back to the team. We've gotten to the point now where we're not even calling one another. And I suspect when we're all back in the office together, we'll continue to use Teams because it's so fast and frankly, more powerful than walking to someone's desk and talking to them, because I can open the document and share it real time with them and say, hey, why did you make this change? If I walk to their desk, I have to say, open that file up, go to that spot. Now, why did you do that? And so it's a really cool collaboration tool and provides all of those tools, calendaring, meetings, all of those things right on one single application. So really powerful.
Yeah, and definitely the workplace of the future, and the future's crept up on us really quickly over the last few months. And but could you imagine going with emailing files back and forth to people and editing them and ending up in BCCs and CCs and that whole mess as compared to where you are today, Dave?
Trying to collaborate through email is not the best platform.
Never been good.
Especially if you're talking about files and updates. One thing before we go to Q&A, MotherG is offering personalized training sessions for companies. If you're interested in that, contact me, and I can talk to you about those options. And then I think, is there one more slide after this?
Yeah, it's just the Q&A slide.
Okay, so we do have some questions. I want to make sure we get to those questions. Mm-hmm. David Stone is asking, is there a setting to get more than 4 people visible on Teams video call? We've never been able to get more than 4. So Teams issued an update, and depending on how your software is set up, David, it should automatically update. You need to click that little button that says there are updates for your Office applications. But when that happens, you will now see, when you go into meetings of up to 9 people, you'll see all of their faces in Teams. That's the maximum now that you can see at one time. But as people talk and participate, they actually cycle through. And so the most recent, most active people will be showing up in that screen.
And I believe if people are sharing their screen, then you still get all the pictures along the bottom, but I think it only streams 4 still. And then of course, if you're on your mobile device as well, your mobile app will only show you 4. 9 would probably be fairly unruly for a mobile app, but we'll see. We'll see what happens.
We have a question from Dennis on West Tech. Will everyone in the channel be invited to a meeting if the channel is add to a meeting invite?
So
I think asking if you create a meeting in a channel, is everybody on the channel invited?
Yeah. By default, that's how it does work. And then you can add additional people who aren't in the channel as well.
Yeah.
Great question. Yeah.
Yeah. And then can you archive teams and channels? What is included when you archive?
That's a really great question. I'm going to have to escalate that one. I don't know the answer. off the top of my head. I suspect, I mean, you can definitely archive in terms of copying all of the files before you delete the team. But whether or not there's a formal archive process, I don't know. So
Yeah, we can, Mike, if you make a note of that, we'll follow up with that, and Dennis will get back to you on that.
Good one. This is the second time I've been stumped this month, so good job.
Mike, do we have any other questions? I know there were a couple out there from before.
Yeah, David's asking about single sign-on. And yeah, I mean, I could talk a fair bit about single sign-on. The key thing is Microsoft has made their sign-on a part of what you can, an application developer can bolt their sign-on process to their application. So it does require all of your software vendors to buy into that. And once they have bought into that, again, the single sign-on is at that point, your Microsoft sign-on. And then of course, those applications by and large are then going to have far better security for logging in, because they have Microsoft level security, where right now they might have something that's a little simpler. So it's going to be an evolutionary process. We're going to watch as this unfolds, but I think we're going to see more and more people more and more software vendors are going to jump on the single sign-on bandwagon. I think it's just such a great user experience as well. So good question. Hope that helps. Happy to go into more detail at the end of the call, and stick around if you want more specific questions, David.
Yeah.
Why is Teams made for collaboration, John?
The question, yeah, why is Teams made for collaboration? So, Teams actually, the lineage of Teams comes from Skype. Microsoft bought Skype maybe 5-7 years ago, and then they created Skype for Business, and it was really kind of a phone video collaboration tool. A lot of people used it for internet calling families internationally and whatnot. They decided to expand the platform to be encompassing of other products similar to Slack, where you could quickly create a subgroup within your organization and create conversations, discussion topics, and try and segregate the people. So for example, if you have a construction company and you might be building 5 projects at the same time, there might be information you want to communicate to every employee in the company. There might be information you want to communicate to all the project managers. There may be information within a project that you want to communicate to all the people that are working on that project. There may be files, for example, a budget for a project. There might be a forecast for all projects. And so those different documents are going to have different participants that you want participating, and you may actually have some people you don't want to see that information. So it gets complicated when you start looking at how do you want to collaborate, and how do you separate and provide the right access and controls for those people, as well as an easy platform. And that's really the whole premise behind Teams, is to give us a collaboration platform where we can easily decide who should be on the team, who shouldn't, and then what information do we want to share for that team. So for example, in MotherG, I have a business development team that Mike Vizo is part of, as well as my salespeople, and I'm involved in that. And then we can have conversations very quickly. I can create a meeting. I can quickly open up a chat session with anybody on that team and have that conversation. I also have Philippe, who's running operations, and he can invite me into some of his conversations, but a lot of the support discussions are things they don't want me involved in. And so I'm excluded from those teams. And so I won't see them naturally unless I'm invited to a discussion, as Paul showed us. So it gives us a way of collaborating across the organization in a very quick manner, where I don't have to think like an email, oh, who should I invite? And then I have distribution lists, and I have to constantly manage that distribution list as to who's involved. And I don't always see who's included in that distribution list. And I usually need an IT person to maintain the distribution list. So Teams gives us a very rapid, easy tool to manage all those elements.
And for anybody who has organized all of their teams into groups as well, Microsoft had a legacy groups organization, and you can actually import those into Teams. So it can be a fairly straightforward transition when you're setting up your teams if you've already done that logical process. Otherwise, we always encourage people to work with somebody, a consultant. I imagine, Dave, you have team members that do that as well to really sort of flesh out what's the best way to have teams work for your organization, because we've seen people make a big mess out of teams.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's. I encourage you to reach out. We can help you get that Teams environment set up the way you want,
Exactly.
and show you how to do it. And I do want to highlight again, we do have enhanced training options for you. If you're interested, just reach out to me and we can coordinate that. Again, I think it's really helpful, as well as even set up a Teams environment in a specific manner for you. And here's, we'll take this as our last question. Can Teams be used as a VoIP phone system that includes the ability to call non-Teams users similar to AT&T Office at hand?
And yeah, the answer is actually yes. There is a Microsoft phone option, and you may have noticed in Teams there's even a calls button here. So for a lot of organizations, I think it's probably a few dollars more per end user per month than a regular phone system. But
Yes.
the value that you get out of that is you have now everybody collaborating everything within that. So you can do the same recording. You don't have to go into some third party application to see all your phone records and stuff. So
Yeah,
it's definitely something I'm excited about for the future.
Yeah, there are some challenges with that. In that people are used to a handset. They want a quick way to grab a phone and call somebody quickly. And Teams presents some infrastructure challenges that you have to put in place. But the answer is clearly yes, you can do that. And I think down the road we're going to see that convergence where our video and team platforms are starting to extend into the phone set arena. And we're actually seeing, for example, in our office here, we have Teams conference room phones, and I hesitate to say phone, but it's a device that sits in the conference room. We push a button and the video pops up, as well as the ability to outbound dial, as well as all of the options within the Teams platform to bring in participants and initiate a Teams meeting in a conference room. So we'll see those types of technologies continue to expand, and I think much more rapidly because of COVID, frankly.
Exactly. Yeah.
So we're out of time. Again, I apologize to everyone for the difficulties we had to begin with, but I think this worked out great. Paul, thank you for joining us. It's a pleasure having you. And
Thank you.
If you have any more questions, please email us, contact us. We'd be happy to talk more about it. This will be posted as a video later in the day. So if you want to share it with somebody, you'll see that. And then we will send out a survey asking for your feedback on this event, because we have some more planned coming in the future.